Morning, everybody. It's time to take another look at the road to the apocalypse and see where we're going. And this is deadlinger.com. Click the little roadmap button there on the front page. We're actually really deep into, not the world, servers and multiplayer. We've actually covered quite a bit in here, several topics at a time. We're going to come down here. We did survivor interaction, like trading inspection, I think was the last thing that we looked at. What? Oh, I didn't look at the picture. There you go. You can look at somebody. All right, we'll come down a little bit more. And we have server lobby, and selecting spawns. All right, so let's take a look at that. We can cover a few things, I think. So the first thing they got here is we have future plans for a living server lobby where survivors can meet and organize prior to spawning into the world so that they can spawn near their friends and create parties without having to rush or be thrown into the world before they're ready. We will explain this feature as we get closer to its implementation. Well, that's nice. The thing though with the server, because it's going to be more of the where did I read? I think they said there's going to be like 16. Oh, it's down there under general netcode. We'll cover that too. But let's say their goal is like 16 survivors on a server. I think that'd be nice because you pop in, because right now kind of how it stands is like you give a seed to somebody. I forget how we did it before. I haven't done multiplayer in a while because it's really kind of unstable. But basically, there's no real lobby where you can meet, chat, and I see that with a lot of games. There's just some basic lobby functions where you have to ready up. Once everybody's ready, you pop into the game. But prior to that, you can chat, set teams. So I think a nice, robust lobby system would be very good for folks. It's going to let people, organize themselves, decide, especially if you're setting up for teams. If you have folks that you play with and you definitely want to do like team-based PvP type of aspects, maybe swap teams or make sure that your 4 friends come together, you're all on the same team, depending on your gameplay mode. You can just kind of create that party prior to jumping in. Now, that would be if everybody's starting right there at that same time. Depending on who's running your server, you might have or are looking towards more of that persistent type of game. So, at some point the robust lobby system might not matter so much because you're just popping into a world that's already going and running, and so you might not always be able to meet up with your friends unless you're always starting new games together. So it's nice the tool will be there. Not quite sure how much it will be used. Just really all kind of depends on who's running the server and if that server is running up all the time. So that's a good thing. Then they have server options and administration. So server host currently has control over many features such as max survivors, password, admin password, and more. We'll be adding additional options to and tools to help server admins customize, monitor, control their servers in whatever environment they please. We believe that communities and clans should be able to run a server exactly as they please. Currently there is a Windows server, and we'll be expanding the server package to run on Linux and Macs or as soon as we can. Okay, so this is the thing that I keep coming back to whenever I talk about the Deadlinger and where their game is going. The fact that options will be there, and that's where this is going to be driven from the most. The server options and administration. They've hinted at some point you'll be able to put control over, for example, what creatures you can select. Like if you don't want the dogs, you turn the dogs off. A real good example of this is in 7 Days to Die. Maybe not the best example, but one example there is you can kind of tweak your zombies' behaviors. Another good example of this is Project Zomboid. They do a pretty good job because in there you can even tweak at what point the world loses electricity and water. Right away, after a few days, or that never. So that's what's going to make the game a really robust sandbox, is how much control you have over those settings. Now you see this a lot of times in like the Arma 2 Daisy mod. That has so much control. If you play a particular mod, let's say you'd like to play on Epoch, Okay, Epoch is a pretty huge Daisy mod, a mod within a mod. And if you use like the Commander launcher, I forget what it's called exactly, but when you look at the list of different Epoch servers, you can tell there's a huge amount of control. You know, it might be a PvE centered mod. It'll say PvE. You know, you can still shoot people, but you know the emphasis there is PvE. But people have that kind of control, and they put in there like, is it high spawn, low spawn of gear? You know, how aggressive zombies are. I mean, there is just a huge amount of control in setting up your game. And I think that's going to be really, really important for the Dead Linger to stand out, or at least just to make it fun for people who want to get together and either say, hey, let's just go on a zombie killing rampage. So you might make loot spawn really high so it's easy to find gear, and then maybe increase how many zombies are in the world so it's just like, you know, a bloodbath. Just you're running through and wholesale slaughter. You know, maybe you and your friends want to focus more on the survival part. So yeah, they had some game types like the editor and stuff, but maybe it's just the survival game type you want to play, but you just lower the zombie count, or maybe turn down their aggressiveness. Maybe you want to just play something real wacky. So maybe you turn off zombies but just leave in whatever paranormal extras they were talking about putting in. So you have more of a game type that focuses on kind of like a Call of Cthulhu feel. You know, you're hunting ghosts. Maybe it's a Ghostbuster type of mod. So those server options are going to be super, super important to allowing players to customize that experience, and I think will help set it apart from other games. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, general netcode. This will wrap out the category. That's why we'll cover it here. So it says the Dead Linger currently supports a stable 16 survivors and many more if the server host can handle it. We are working on general multiplayer glitchiness and jittery movement of the other survivors. Our number one goal is that the survivors are seeing exactly what's going on and experiencing the same world together at all times. So netcode. That's a huge buzzword. Take a look at Battlefield 4. You can go back and netcode is like the huge thing people complain about. I shoot you on my screen, I put a whole round of, you know, a whole magazine of bullets into you and you don't die, but yet you turn around and shoot me, bam, I'm dead. You know, netcode is a general term for what you do to what other people see, and it goes beyond just lag. I mean, it's huge. It's the whole basis on how the game talks and communicates in a multiplayer environment. And so that's going to really, really be important for this game. Let's take a look at the picture here. So that's going to affect everything from melee combat to shooting, even how you interact with the zombies to a degree. In a multiplayer game, you know, your friend might be shooting stuff that you can't see, and then all of a sudden you can now see it, but it's dead. Or he's shooting at it. Like I had a little bit of this when I played with the gamer me. He was shooting at stuff that I couldn't see, or I was killing stuff that he couldn't see. You know, so it's a really terrible netcode right now. It's awful. So that definitely has to be fixed. Now, I'm not going to say it's imperfect like that always. There's a lot of factors that could be going into it, but it is super important for a game like this. Even when it's small, kind of that lobby-based experience I keep talking about where it's 16 people, that's still going to be important because this has a huge world it has to control, and that one server has to account for that you and other people might go in completely opposite ends of the world, and it's got to track where you are, what's spawning in your area versus what's spawning in somebody else's area in another part of the world, and make that a coherent, cohesive experience. That way when the two of you meet up, then the game doesn't crash because you know, it can't handle just that little bit of interaction. So netcode is going to be super, super important. All of this is important. So I'm glad that's something that they've put down and they're talking about, because if you're going to be a multiplayer game, you have to have a good, strong multiplayer foundation. Right now the game is super focusing on the single player aspect, but the multiplayer is not forgotten. It is still there. It's something that they're thinking about, and I'm glad that that's mentioned and continuing. So that's just a few thoughts on. Well, my sound just keeps blowing out. Okay, so that's just a few thoughts there on the server lobby, server options, and general netcode. Okay, so let's take a look at something I found here today on the massively.joystick.com website. Now, I had heard about this a little bit, and it was real just kind of speculation up to a point, but today it looks like is confirmed. The new Sony Sandbox game, nicknamed or tentatively called H1Z1. Hold on, my speakers are going wonky here. So Sony Online Entertainment's H1Z1 is a zombie-flavored sandbox. So it looks like the brand new Sony game that they said was going to replace Star Wars Galaxies is indeed now officially confirmed as a zombie game. Okay, so why would I bring that up on a Dead Linger thing? Because it's competition, really. It has its own different set of rules. We'll talk about some things here I read and how this would compare with the Dead Linger. I think the Dead Linger is still going to be great in its niche of like the small kind of like server-based things, because let's listen to some things they posted about their H1Z1 game. It says here, let's see. John Smedley explained the vision for the game. It's a massively multiplayer game in which players fight for survival in a world where death is the only sure thing, he writes. Set in Middle America with a distinct zombie flavor, the game will be a sandbox with a deep crafting system with which players can build shelters out of resources in the world and work together to make amazing fortresses complete with weaponry to help defend against both the infected and other players. So how is the game different from the multitudes of other kill-or-be-killed post-apocalyptic zombie sandboxes already in existence? Smedley says it's a persistent MMO with thousands of players and different rule sets, a strong economy, open looting in PvP, access to the developers, emphasis on player ownership and building, and cool tech borrowed from PlanetSide 2. It's going to be available within the next 4 to 6 weeks, so within a month or so we should be able to start seeing how this game runs, and it will fall under the $15 all access pass. Alright, cool. So how is this going to be different than the Dead Linger? One, when he said it was going to be a persistent, thousands of players and borrowing technology from PlanetSide 2, I immediately thought it's going to be PlanetSide 2 in a zombie survival setting with zombies running around. DayZ was the Arma 2 engine with its lobby-based kind of mechanics supporting PvP with zombies in the background. So first of all, without ever having seen the game, when they mentioned open world PvP and stuff like that, that automatically made me think it's going to be, possibly, it said borrowing tech from PlanetSide 2, so I don't think dropships, but like, you might have factions. So I'm thinking just another PvP game, but involving thousands of players with zombies as the backdrop, and there's some crafting. Unless they have an option where you can have like a PvP and team co-op mode with less emphasis on open world PvP, Dead Linger is still going to fill that niche of the survival game. So this is important to point out because it is just another game that's going to bring its own flair to the genre. But just some of the description I've seen right there, it's going to be hard to say if that's something that I'm going to be really interested in. Oh, I will play it. Because let's look at some screenshots. And this is why I'm always telling you graphics are important. So people who say, hey, don't focus on graphics in Dead Linger, fix bugs. Let me tell you, though, why graphics are important. So here's a shot. This doesn't really get much bigger than that. But here you've got buildings and things. Now, I don't know if all the buildings you could enter into. I think Dead Linger will definitely surpass this if the buildings are just drop back pictures, because I hate games. I get so tired of games where they show like all these beautiful houses, even fantasy style games where you just see all these houses, but you can't go into any of them. So I'll be a little disappointed if this game follows that, and the only things you can really go into are the player created housing. Okay, so here's a screenshot. Probably hard to see. You'd probably be better off going to the Sony Reddit or coming to the Massively website here and reading the article. See the pictures better. But that's one picture. They've got this one here. Oh, here we can full screen them. All right, so here's a picture here. I mean, the apocalyptic theme is there. It looks really nice. You got your guy. Yeah, my son just popped in. He's like, oh, beautiful graphics. He's got his hatchet. Take another look here. Here's a zombie. Definitely already much better textures on their zombies than the Dead Linger. So it looks really good too. Lots of vehicles. Doesn't mean you can drive the vehicle, but see, if you're borrowing tech from PlanetSide 2, that means you're probably going to have in-depth vehicles with what they have available to you.
Or you have to find parts to repair the vehicle.
Yeah, find parts to repair them. Let's see. Here you go. You're driving already. They're in a Jeep. So, no, it's not the tanks of PlanetSide 2, but already from the get-go, they've got vehicles. But, you got to remember, too, the difference, and I'm not, silly to this. This is a AAA game from a AAA studio. So, yeah, they already have a lot of development put into it. And so it makes sense that they would come out and they already have vehicles and stuff like that, because they're borrowing from a technology that they're already using to power a game they already have in existence. Mostly they're just tweaking models and textures and stuff like that. But from the pictures here, it looks really, really good. All right, then you got a survivor standing on a burnt out minivan kind of a thing. It looks great. I'm gonna play it. I mean, I really am. But from what I'm seeing and just what I read there, completely different gaming experience than the Dead Linger. But see, these are the things that drive innovation. I guarantee if there wasn't a Dead Linger or a Daisy or anything like that, this game probably would not even be on the drawing board. But this is what drives the competition and drives folks to come out with new games, new ideas. So I'm looking forward to it. Now, the thing is, I don't see it really changing the roadmap for the Dead Linger too much, but I think what's going to be really different between something like this Sony game and the Dead Linger is the Dead Linger is still going to cater towards the survival aspect and less on the PvP. This one sounds like, from what he said, PvP. There's going to be a lot of fighting beyond just the survival. So I'm hoping that they definitely have a server option where it's more co-op focused than just open world killing, because I want to just worry about fighting the zombies, not worrying about other people too. Anyway, but that's just me. I've got plenty of games for PvP, Battlefield 4, Call of Duties, all kinds of games that focus on that. I still want that Dead Linger experience of focusing on the survival. So we'll be interested to see how they do the crafting as well. Anyway, I just wanted to share that out. A couple of exciting things here on the roadmap. Some more competition coming out of the pipeline that I hope, really showcases the strengths of the Dead Linger on its survival aspect and its unique barricading, because I have no idea how it's going to handle building in this H1Z1. I know if it's like a Sony game and they draw from their experiences with EverQuest 2, I could imagine quite a robust crafting system. But is it going to have that free form barricading system that the Dead Linger has? Dead Linger still has a lot of strengths, and I can see that this is still going to be my go-to game for surviving. But there's more games coming out that I think are going to just actually help showcase those strengths in the Dead Linger. All right, so anyway, that's a roadmap. We'll talk to everybody next time. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you later. Enjoy your weekend. Bye, everybody.